So last month, I got back from TwitchCon and, of course, got a cold. That's what I get for all that smooching. Anyway, since I got to spend 2 days at home doing absolutely nothing, I decided to break out Final Fantasy VII Remake since Rebirth is only a few short months away and remind myself of the full story. And right away, I remembered I had a lot of questions at the end of that game. But if you're like me and waiting till next year to play to get all your answers, maybe give today's sponsor, Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, a go. Relive the most memorable moments from Final Fantasy VII and experience the journey of the young hero, Sephiroth. Enjoy classic and new stories within the Final Fantasy VII universe in a way that's easily accessible and on the go. Team up with your favorite characters and customize each of them with iconic gear to defeat powerful opponents in solo or co-op battles. Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis features a new original story, Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier, which follows a young Sephiroth and 3 young soldiers to find the hidden truth that's slowly revealed as their generation rises. Discover how the fate of the 3 soldiers became intertwined with Sephiroth. Explore the world with reimagined characters inspired by the original Final Fantasy VII character models, and then you can battle using the 3D character models reminiscent of Final Fantasy VII Remake. And in addition to The First Soldier, Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis also features numerous stories from the original Final Fantasy VII, as well as Crisis Core in episodic installments. During battles, enjoy the amazing-looking cutscenes when you're using limit breaks or summons, and of course, all the mobile-friendly things you're used to, like an auto mode or changing the battle speed. Plus, you can play with friends in co-op mode by matching up to 3 players. Create parties with your favorite characters from Final Fantasy VII, like Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, and Zack, to take on a bevy of challenges together. Right now, if you log in to play for free on iOS or Android, the Final Fantasy IX crossover event is underway. Take on the Black Waltz and customize Final Fantasy VII series characters such as Cloud and Tifa with limited-time Final Fantasy IX themed gear. But if you're just watching to hear me rant about my thoughts on what we need to see in the next game, let's get back to that. Now, obviously, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the mysteries set up by Remake for Rebirth. Who are the Whispers? What do they want? There are plenty of theories on that, but what got me to want to make this video was this moment I totally forgot about. As Cloud falls from the Airbuster battle to find Aerith, the Whispers swirl around him. He appears to be sitting in what is commonly known as a white void room in pop culture. It's used in a ton of media and games, especially like Kingdom Hearts, Half-Life 2, Mario 64, and other Final Fantasies. I'm sure you know of it. Anyway, in Remake, we hear a voice talking to Cloud. And then, as the figure approaches, it is Cloud. But when he finally puts his hand on his own shoulder, sure, the character changes to Sephiroth and says,
I am your everything.
So Cloud wakes up to having his second meeting with Aerith, where she reveals to him that he dropped a materia, but hey, she has one very similar to it, except it really isn't good for anything. And then Cloud has another one of his freak-out visions. One that is super spoilery. Not because we who have played the original Final Fantasy VII know what that means, but more importantly because now Cloud is seeing it happen before it happens? And then Aerith gives a cryptic answer, which we'll talk about later. But it was this one scene that set me off on a, oh man, I forgot this happened kind of trip, where I just wanted to catalog all the strange things in the game that I would love to see answers for in the sequel. Now, to be clear, things could get crazy. The ideas that I have or that you might have in the comments down below could be way off the wall. But what we do know is that things aren't going to get too bonkers, since Yoshinori Kitatse, the producer for VII Remake, has said the events of this game will link up directly to his other work, Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. And we already got some hint of that, considering that during the final battle in Remake, we fight 3 characters who are essentially Kadaj, Laws, and Yazoo, the 3 villains from the movie, and yeah, that all checks out. But then what answers to the questions this game brings up would we get if, at the end, it all sort of owes to the same place? I guess first we just have to take a look at those questions. So let's really quickly jump back into, why is Cloud seeing images of the future, or Sephiroth? Well, it could easily be answered from the original game, I think, but I'm honestly open to being surprised. In the original Final Fantasy VII, Cloud was injected with Genova cells, but more specifically, S cells, which I'm pretty sure means Sephiroth cells, which wiped his memory and gave him his soldier first class skills. And it could be that in Remake, those cells link Cloud to Sephiroth, and that's what's causing all of this. But then what does that mean for Sephiroth? When you play through the Remake, it becomes pretty obvious that Sephiroth knows way more than he lets on, almost as if he's played the original game before and this time he's using that knowledge to move forward. What could that even mean for us? Who knows? But by pushing Cloud past the Whispers and to challenge fate, it looks like we've opened up entirely new possibilities for our heroes. And with Aerith's help, Cloud manages to find and challenge his nemesis at the edge of creation, where Sephiroth says,
"7 seconds till the end. Time enough for you, perhaps. But what will you do with it? Let's see."
And this is a wildly vague statement, obviously put in the game to keep people guessing, and they got me guessing. Could it be as simple as Cloud has 7 seconds to stop the meteor from destroying the planet? And if so, what could he do in those 7 seconds? Also, isn't the planet saved by Aerith and the life stream? So maybe he's talking about Aerith, maybe her demise? But if that's the case and he has 7 seconds to save her, isn't that a bad thing? Because her death results in the world being able to fight back against the meteor. So maybe he's trying to get in his head, or maybe there's something much worse that we don't know about. And again, no clue. A lot of hints, a lot of questions, no answers. Speaking of no answers, let's talk Aerith, since she's been brought up a few times in this conversation. It's pretty clear that much like Sephiroth, she knows something's going on too. At multiple points in the game, she clearly drops hints that she knows how things are going to turn out, even if it's not going to end well for her. But even in this, she's playing things so close to the chest that we don't really know exactly how much she does know. And then there's the question of how much wisdom and knowledge of the future, or an alternate reality or whatever, she can impart on others. Because just like Sephiroth is influencing Cloud with visions, it looks like Aerith can do the same? Remember that scene where Aerith goes to Marlene, who is terrified and crying, the plate is gonna collapse, where's her dad? This happens in that scene. What is going on here? It's almost like Marlene saw something that made her suddenly okay. Did Aerith show her a vision of a future where she's fine? Because, again, more questions, not many answers, but hopefully we will get them. That's the whole point of this video, is just I wanted to put it all down and get it out into the ether so I'd remember, and hopefully you would too when the time comes for Rebirth. And really, it's less about what they know and how or why they know it. And look, there could be a pretty simple answer for this, explained in one of my guilty pleasure games, Dirge of Cerberus. In that game, we learn that Aerith and Sephiroth are still sentient, conscious beings in the life stream, even after their physical death. It's even worked in a little bit into Advent Children, which is apparently something that we are headed towards. Could it be that everything we did in the original will eventually lead us to a worse fate? Something that explains the 500-year later ending of the first game that really didn't make a lot of sense with Advent Children. And so that thought got me going on a deep dive back to 2005 when Advent Children came out, and I wanted to see what was going on with that. Did they explain any of that? Did anyone ever say anything? And surprisingly enough, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Remake producer and Advent Children producer Yoshinori Kitatse said the ending of Final Fantasy VII seemed to me to open up so many possibilities with its characters, more so than other games. This then prompted Electronic Gaming Monthly, EGM, to say at the very end of Final Fantasy VII, we see the epilogue to the whole story that takes place 500 years later. So really, you still have another 479 years worth of games and movies to fill in. To which Yoshinori replied, maybe I'll try to do that. In a way, I consider the epilogue to be the true happy ending of Final Fantasy VII. Well, it's a happy ending even though all the human beings are destroyed. And that seems pretty definitive on what that 500 years later ending means. So could it be that even though we defeated Sephiroth in the original, and defeated Omega in Dirge of Cerberus, and beat back the corruption of the Lifestream and Advent Children, That there is a far worse fate for humanity coming soon? And if that's the case, what restarted all the events in an attempt to create an alternate path? And speaking of alternate paths, the obvious ones being that after the events of Remake, we saw a version of reality where Cloud and Zack lived through the event that would normally set Cloud on his path to becoming a hero. But if both are still alive, what does that mean? And how does that timeline work with the new one? And while we're here in alternate timeline land, Biggs survives the end of the game. And that's a change that just on its own, I think means different timeline. The question is it a better or worse one? And then recently, the devs were given kind of hints that Jessie might return in some way. Could it be that it's just in the form of a simple old flyer from her show that was at the Gold Saucer? Maybe. Or we could go full alt timeline, and when we go to the Gold Saucer, she's there singing and dancing in the show. I don't know. Maybe it's a nothing, maybe it's just them messing with us, but they've got my head spinning. Because now we're in the territory where we have at least one timeline for the normal original game, one timeline where Zack lives, one timeline where Biggs lives, and potentially more. Or does this mean that Zack has always been around in this timeline and that's why it's different? Again, I don't know. And this brings us all the way back around to the Whispers, who seem to want to control events, perhaps preventing them from getting too out of hand. Look at everything they did. Injured Jessie when Cloud was going to leave, so he would have to take her role in the mission, just like in the original game. They saved Reno from Cloud killing him in the church. They then prevent Jessie and Wedge from escaping during the plate collapse. They even stop Hojo from revealing Cloud's past, and then save Barrett from what would certainly be his death. And because of those things, when I was doing my Let's Play at the time, I had a big ongoing theory that this was some sort of meta-narrative about older players not wanting the game to change. But it's clear they represent more than that, because if they were just merely arbiters of fate, why are they seemingly on Sephiroth's side in the finale, when he appears to be trying to challenge fate? This one, I think, is one of the biggest ones for me. I have zero answers. I'm not sure what it means at all. I think there's probably way too many possibilities with this. I am curious, though, what your theories are. What do you think about the Whispers? I love the theory crafting on this. What have you heard? What have you thought up? Hit me down below in the comments. Anyway, those were just some of the mysteries that have been bugging me, but I'm really curious what you think needs to be answered, or what burning questions you have for February. Rebirth is right around the corner, and even just saying that now, I was like, damn, it is almost here. And I'm sure, like me, you'll be playing too, and while I don't expect all the answers, I can't wait to see where this goes.